Inspirational Creatives, episode 167. Welcome to Inspirational Creatives. I'm your host, Rob Lawrence. Join me every Friday as I chat with successful artists, producers, and creative entrepreneurs who share powerful stories and strategies. They can help you to create the life that you want. Listen each week as these inspirational creatives show you how to take your creativity to the next level. You'll learn how to create a sustainable business that inspires others and gives you the financial freedom and lifestyle that you want. Thanks for listening. Make sure you sign up at inspirationalcreatives.com to get free exclusive bonus material. And now, on with the show. Rob here, and welcome to another episode of Inspirational Creatives. My guest today is no stranger to this show, as we spoke in episode 15, right at the beginning of the series, on the art of social media and crafting a career in publicity. She's a highly regarded international speaker, having spoken at South by Southwest 11 times and counting, as well as across the globe. Today, she is well known amongst musicians, artists and entrepreneurs alike as an expert in not just PR, but crowdfunding too. With a new book launched just this October on how to create a powerful and profitable crowdfunding campaign, it's my great pleasure to welcome back to the show today, Ariel Hyatt. Ariel, a very warm welcome.
Thank you so much.
Before we get straight into chatting about crowdfunding, crowdsourcing, and of course your new book, Crowdstart, for those new to who you are, Ariel, how would you describe what it is you do today? And more specifically, who is it that you serve?
Today, I run a digital marketing agency and PR firm, which basically means we do a lot of emailing. And we have two types of clients: musicians, artists, and people in the music industry. And my other passion is, because I am one, and a sort of newer client base for us is female entrepreneurs, women founders, and women who are in either new or established businesses. And we do the same thing for both. So we help them get digital publicity, so included on blogs and podcasts. And we also help them with their brand. Is their brand looking great across social media? Is their message straight? And how do they build their reputations online? Usually they have something huge going on offline and they haven't quite caught up. So it's about helping them to get their brand caught up to what's going on off the internet.
Got it. So it's a bit like creating what they do offline, but online, and creating that experience online.
Exactly.
Fabulous. Well, I'm dying to talk to you about your new book. But before we do that, let's talk about this business called crowdfunding, which your book, of course, is about. For those unfamiliar with the term, in your terms, what is crowdfunding?
Crowdfunding is asking your crowd, your community, your colleagues, your friends, your family, your supporters, your even tertiary friends and followers on social media to help you support a dream. So whatever that might be for you. For a lot of musicians, it's making an album or having enough money to go on tour. For some, it's about creating a product that they want to manufacture, or a service. For some, it's about raising money for something they're very passionate about. Maybe it's a charity or something that they want to do in the world that they don't have the capital to make that dream happen. So crowdfunding is asking your community to help you fund your dream.
And I guess it must have been a dream of yours to write a book, maybe about crowdfunding perhaps. But what I love about your book is it is a book about crowdfunding that was crowdfunded too. Is that right?
I know, the irony, right? Yes. So Crowdstart is my fourth book, and I've always written and self-published my own books at the same time running my agency. So it's pretty much like having two full-time jobs. And a few years ago, when I did my crowdfunding campaign, I thought, wouldn't it be really, really nice to have enough money to hire a proper editor and enough to have a real graphic designer and maybe even hire a marketing team or a web designer to help me through, because I really had bootstrapped the last four books. The first one, I think there was actually a typo on every single page. So that, and I really wanted to rebrand my company. At the time, it was called Ariel Publicity, which I named it after myself when I was 24. And the journey had been long, and it was really time for a rebrand. I wanted it to not include my name, but to have a better more recognizable brand. And I realized that was going to cost money. I needed to design a new logo, get a new website, new business cards, new brands aren't free. So my crowdfunding campaign was to not only get the money to launch Crowdstart, the book that we're talking about today, and I can't wait to talk about that creative process because it was years longer than I expected. But was also to redo the website, everything I just mentioned. So it was sort of rolling up many, many dreams into one big crowdfunding campaign, and I managed to raise over $50,000. So it was a hell of a journey.
Let's talk about that creative process. Was it a hard book to write?
Yes. It was a really hard book to write. And the reason was it was the first book that is taking me out of my comfort zone. My comfort zone is about musicians and bands and music industry where I've been for 20 years. And I'm known here. It's comfortable in this lane. And this book is really for any entrepreneur, any creative person. It's not just for musicians, although I suspect because I know thousands of them, that will be one of the groups that buys this book. But this was a book that it took a little bit more research and a little bit more thought to not just write for musicians from the music industry perspective. And crowdfunding changes pretty fast, just like everything in the digital world. So the book that I had drafted even 18, 20 months ago had to have a lot of updates to get right up to printing.
I've not yet read the book from cover to cover, but I'm right stuck into the middle of it at the moment. But I'm already truly gripped by some of the stories and details that you offer. Tell me the story about how your apartment catching fire and then appearing on Oprah with your mum led up to writing a book about crowdfunding. How did that all unfold and come together for you?
So those are two major things that have happened in my life. And they were two things that were really definitive for who I am and what I do. And I think all of us have this. And it's crucial to kind of notice when really big things happen in your life and how they inform what it is you choose to do with your life or what the lessons are that come. So the Oprah story is one that I've shared for a couple of years now. It happened almost 10 years ago, but it's still something I reflect back on. And it really was a turning point in my life. And as I was writing this book, I was thinking about, why do I want to write this book? And, why was crowdfunding so cathartic for me, this journey? And why is it so cathartic for the people that I coach who do their own crowdfunding campaigns? And I realized that the theme for everyone is basically the personal experiences inform the desire. So when I went on Oprah, I was young. I had only been in business for about 5 or 6 years. And even though I was a publicist and I really understood media, I was totally not prepared for a media giant the size of Harpo and was not prepared for what can happen when you get in front of the camera. And it ended up being not what I thought it was going to be about. I thought that I was going on a show about generational differences in the workplace. And the episode that I ended up being on was really about how angry are you at your mother who was not there for you because she chose career over parenting. And that had been obviously a very painful family story and very private. And all of a sudden it was in front of 40 million people. And I realized that the media can make you completely powerless if you let it. And we see this all the time. I mean, we see things getting spun. I mean, right now we're at the end of the US elections. It's a couple more weeks. And I mean, things are just so brutally out of control. Both candidates look so ugly and the media is not helping it at all. So it's a really interesting thing that has only gotten worse. So that was my first aha, which was when you have a crowd and you can speak to your crowd and you have control over your own message because you're connected to your people, it's very different than when you don't. The second part of that is I did lose my apartment in a fire. I'm from New York City. I went to work one day, got a call from my building manager, and he said, "Your apartment just burned down." And I rushed over and literally everything I owned was gone. Thank goodness no one was hurt. But the lesson there was, there I was. I literally didn't have a place to live. And I started emailing and calling my friends. Being a New Yorker, I did not own a car. So I asked my friend who has a big truck if she could come and help me, salvage the things. My friend who has an extra apartment, I asked him if I could, live in his apartment temporarily. You have to ask for a lot of things, especially in a trying time like that. And it was very interesting. A lot of my best friends who I asked for help had things to say, like, I couldn't possibly do that. I have children and I'm very busy, or I'm out of town, or I'm one of my friends. I just invited her over to help me just do the laundry because I had to literally wash every piece of clothing that I ever owned because it was covered in soot and dirt and smoke. And she said, I don't do laundry. Which was shocking. And then I had other friends who showed up, and I write about this in the book. A friend, not even a friend, an acquaintance from university showed up at my door with bleach and a mask and gloves. And really, my house was burned beyond recognition. And what I was trying to do was like salvage whatever was there. And it all had to be bleached and scrubbed and, transferred in boxes out of that apartment. And this guy I'd really hadn't seen in 15 years, spent an entire day with me, just scrubbing all my pots and pans and plates and dishes and little artifacts that were not gone. And I learned a real lesson about who is in your crowd. And when you have something, and any of you that have lost a parent or had an illness, you probably have also experienced this, people that you didn't expect rise to the occasion. And that is a lesson of crowdfunding. It's the most magical lesson, where people that you didn't expect show up. And that's what you give people the opportunity to do if you're brave enough to do a crowdfunding campaign.
That's fascinating. I mean, this idea that there are people there hiding, I suppose, in the woodwork and in that sense, but they've still got their eye on you. They're still looking out for you from a caring perspective. It's pretty fascinating how crowdfunding can remind us of that. Let's talk about some of the benefits of crowdfunding for artists and entrepreneurs. From where you see it, what are the benefits of crowdfunding or creating a crowdfunding campaign?
Well, the obvious and immediate benefit is clearly money. You get money to do something. Obviously, you have to work for that money. So it's not like, woohoo, free money in the bank. But money is obviously the motivating factor, I think, for most people that decide to start a crowdfunding campaign. But there's two other things that I talk about in the book that are really important. The second thing is community. You don't realize who is in your community and how much they're willing to support you until you have a crowdfunding campaign. Just like what I said, you don't know where the hidden people that are willing to show up with gloves and bleach and a mask are. So community is a third thing. Is the second thing. Community is the second thing. And then the third thing that happens is the magical part. I mean, they're all magic, but the third thing is really understanding that the experience is not just about you and your journey asking for money, but it's about the whole experience of who steps forward, who participates, who comes to the table for you. And you really end up getting a much better sense of not only whatever your proof of concept was, like whatever you were raising money to do, but really who's in your journey with you. And I think that is the most powerful part. So that at the end of your campaign, you walk away fully supported and fully understanding that even though you maybe thought you were alone, or, you thought maybe you had these people or these people supporting you, it gives you a whole new perspective.
I love that. So the benefits of crowdfunding are obviously the money that you could raise for whatever it is you're aiming for, but also the opportunity to rally your community together. But that third point sounds really powerful to me, which is it kind of reaffirms to you who's with you on your journey right now.
Totally.
Let's get into some of the detail about this then. What do you believe is at the essence behind creating a killer crowdfunding campaign, in your opinion?
It's the essence that I think is behind anything that's of importance to any of us right now, and that is story.
Hmm.
And if you've done any marketing or PR or if you're not living under a rock in 2016, we're all sort of aware that story is the driving force behind any decisions we make. Story is what you'll use in any of your marketing. And so your crowdfunding campaign has to tell a story. It has to have a story. It has to be cohesive so that other people can understand what it is you're trying to do, what's in it for them, what this journey really truly means. So I think that's at the essence what you need to do. I mean, of course, everybody wants $10,000 or 15,000 or 20,000 or 5,000 to do the thing, whatever it is. I want to write a book, create a course, go on a trip that's going to change the world, help kids in Africa, whatever it is. But until you can tell the story of why that's important to you and why that's important to them, you're not going to have a cohesive crowdfunding platform.
I got it. So it's all about story. This kind of leads me to a question I want to ask you about. You mentioned in Crowdstart that crowdfunding is very much a personal journey and it's also unpredictable. Could you explain what it is that you mean by that?
Yeah. So the personal part is, I think this is the part that was the most surprising for me is when I was doing my crowdfunding campaign, I kept going online and looking for tips and tricks. And, it's very important to understand the science behind everything having to do with a crowdfunding campaign, just as it is to understand the science of social media if you're going to try to attempt to be really good there. You don't just get on Facebook and randomly do stuff. Luckily for us, there's about 1 million articles that explain. So the good news is there's a lot of fabulous tips and people blogging about their journey. But the thing that I did not see was very few people were willing to tell the truth about what will happen to you when you decide to ask every single person in the world, so it feels like, for money. There's going to be, no matter how strong you are, no matter how good you are at sales, no matter how you think that that's not a thing, there's going to be a moment where it's not going to feel awesome. So you're either going to be feeling like you're screaming into the void and no one is responding, or you're going to feel like you've been let down by someone who you were really counting on and they just either don't respond or they don't give you any money. It's just uncomfortable because it's a sales campaign. It really is. You are trying to sell your idea to get money. Of course, you're offering fabulous rewards, and there is something very much in it for everyone involved. But the truth is, you got to get them to donate. You got to get them to pledge. You got to get them to come along on the journey. And that will bring up some uncomfort, especially during 30 days. 30 days is a long time. And I talk about why 30 days is the ultimate amount of time for a crowdfunding campaign. Many people do much longer crowdfunding or open-ended crowdfunding campaigns. But for those 30 days, you're going to be confronted by whatever it is that comes up for you when you ask everyone for money.
Let's go a little bit deeper then. What came up for you? What was the reality of that like for you, those more scary moments? How did you deal with them?
Oh boy, so much came up for me. And this is really something that I see with many of the clients and colleagues and friends that I also know. At the ASCAP I Create Music conference a couple of years ago, I ran into Manifest, who's a fabulous hip hop artist. He's a Christian hip hop artist. He has a huge following. He's from Canada, and he's done several crowdfunding campaigns. And he and I started talking, and he was saying to me, it is so brutal and strips you so bare when you're asking everyone for money. And I mean, this is a guy who goes on world tour and has like so many fans. It was just so, and a man, it was just very interesting to, we were basically hugging each other going, I know, isn't it horrible? It's so painful, but it's also so worth it. But the point here is it will bring up, I mean, for me, it brought up any sort of, the dark side that tells you you're not good enough, you don't deserve this, who do you think you are to be asking for so much money? I had been giving away for so many years blog posts and articles and, traveling around and speaking mostly on my own dime. This was really my passion was to give back. And of course, I sold books and I sold campaigns at my PR firm. So it's not like I'm 100% altruistic on that. But when you give away a lot, all of a sudden, and every musician I know is giving away so much. Everything's up on Spotify and Bandcamp and SoundCloud. You're giving away what you should be selling for free, and that's not fair. And all of a sudden, you're trying to monetize what everybody has been willing to take for free. So you're gonna get confronted by that. And you need to figure out, how do you calm the little voice down so that you're not sabotaging your own campaign. And then other really interesting things happen. I had best friends tell me, you know what? I don't have any money right now. I'm totally broke and I'm not going to support you. And I'm sorry. I had my own mother say to me, you're really embarrassing this family by asking for this money. Why would you have done this? Why didn't you just ask me for your wedding fund? And she just totally didn't even understand what crowdfunding was. And she just thought it didn't look good. So there's all kinds of naysayers that might pop out of the woodwork. And that's painful too, to deal with them. So those are a few little examples. Every single person I've ever coached has had that. And it's a bit shocking. And you have to prepare yourself for the dark side of your campaign, which is those things and a few more.
So how did you manage yourself during that time? I mean, it sounds deeply emotional in that sense. It must have been. How did you cope with that? I mean, what did you do in terms of getting through it?
I talk about this in my book, and this is part of sort of pre-preparing for your campaign. And I think it's really important to get a board of directors, a personal board of directors, whether that's an enthusiastic friend. In my case, Derek Sivers has been one of my best friends for many, many years, and he's my go-to guy. I can call him at 2 a.m. feeling dismayed, and he always manages to say the right thing. So getting someone who is an unwavering support system. My now husband, boyfriend at the time, was also fantastic and really propped me up during the campaign and really helped me with so much. So it's very important to have people. And you might be married to or living with or dating or in love with someone who's not very enthusiastic and your biggest cheerleader. You need to spend less time with them during your campaign and get with the people who really are your champions. Like I said, my mom was really confronted by what I was doing. And so that was a huge lesson, was like surround yourself with people who can be really helpful.
So that's really, really powerful. That's really, really powerful to surround yourself with the right people that I guess have got a mindset that can help you through those times. You mentioned in Crowdstart that 60% of crowdfunding campaigns fail to reach their funding target. Why is that, do you believe, Ariel?
Pretty simple. The media makes it look easy. We look and see these blow it out of the water crowdfunding campaigns like The Coolest Cooler or Amanda Palmer, who, raised $1.2 million. Or we read about movies that get made like Zach Braff. And so it's planted in our heads that anyone can do this and millions and millions of dollars will flow your way. So that's the first problem. The second problem is it looks really easy. You just go to Kickstarter or Indiegogo, you set up your campaign, you press a button, you put it on Facebook, you tweet a couple of times, and voila. And that is so not how it happens. I think people don't understand what it really takes to do this. Just like social media looks very easy from an outside perspective, right? I just put a couple tweets up, or I just, Facebook. But the truth is, you really have to have a strategy. You need to have a newsletter list. You need to understand who in your community is going to be supportive: colleagues, friends, family members, people that you go to church with, people you play soccer with, people in your kids' preschool. I mean, you really have to think, who, if I came to them and asked, would be willing to be a part of this? And you cannot hide behind social media. You really need to have a strategy for approaching every single one of the people that might be in contribution to you during your campaign. And I think specifically about my godparents, these are people in their 90s. They're not on Facebook. They definitely would not have seen a newsletter list because in my godfather's case, his secretary opens the emails for him on his AOL account. So I had to call them and say, hey, I'm doing this thing, and would you mind? And of course, they were delighted to contribute, but it was really not something they would have seen. So you have to think about who are the people in your life that might love you, but might not love your Facebook page or your Twitter stream. A lot of my personal friends tune me out on social media because they're not interested in marketing tips or Twitter tips.
Mm.
You have to really think about that because they were totally willing to support my campaign and came forward with grace and with a lot of money, which was fabulous. But they wouldn't have seen it had I not thought, I better call this person, text this person, write this person a personal email just to make sure that they know what I'm up to.
Yeah, got it. It's fascinating to hear your journey there where you were reaching out to people individually and particularly those that weren't connected electronically, I suppose. You mentioned in your book approaching people and getting one like at a time. In part 2 of your book, you talk about having no crowd and, without a crowd, there is no crowdfunding, which kind of makes sense. But in your experience looking at other crowdfunding campaigns, have you found that folks sometimes get that the wrong way round? They're trying to crowdfund before they've built a crowd.
I've seen it. I think that is really why so many crowdfunding campaigns fail because people think, as Seth Godin says, that friendlies, the people that have followed you for some random reason, maybe they like your golden retriever or your coffee in the morning, but they actually, they have no idea what you're really doing for a living, or they don't really understand, what your message is or who you are. That's very, very different from someone who is on your newsletter list or has come to see you or has worked with you in some capacity or seen you perform. Very, very different. So you cannot just go, oh, I have 5,000 Facebook fans and 4,000 people following me on Twitter and 1,000 people on my Instagram and add all those up and think that is the pool. You really need to ask, who out of my community are my super fans? Who are the ones that are going to be responding?
Yeah, got it. So it's about starting with the super fans and then building from there in that sense.
Totally.
Fantastic. So right now our listeners probably thinking, where can I get hold of the book? So before we crack on, where is the best place to pick up the book from?
Amazon.com is where you can buy the book, or if you want to get the bonus, there's a free chapter. You can, if you're not sure, you can come download it at arielhyatt.com. That's my new website, and there's some articles and some excerpts from the book there. And you can also I have a little crowdfunding quiz if you're trying to find out if crowdfunding is right for you and how ready are you. And that's all at arielhyatt.com.
That's superb. So as you're listening to this, you can click in the show notes right now and just click on that link and find yourself over at arielhyatt.com. So what's the best tip that you could offer for our listener who's perhaps got a few thousand followers and they might be thinking of launching a crowdfunding campaign? Without giving too much away, obviously they'll need your book, but what could they be thinking about right now?
Begin to think about how can you bond to those people more closely before you ask them for anything.
So this is about deepening the connection then?
Absolutely.
And what ways did you approach that when you were approaching your own campaign?
I was in a unique situation, which some of you may be in and some of you may not, where I was pretty diligent about sending a weekly newsletter of tips and articles and observations. So I was in front of a lot of people regularly, which I think was the reason my crowdfunding campaign did well. But I really did learn that, especially during the 30-day journey, it's not just about, how many people are on your mailing list and how often do you communicate with them way before your campaign launches, but really during the 30 days, back to the story. It's not just about the same story on day 1 as it is on day 30, right? You want to be building something. So what stories are you telling? What are you sharing? How are you communicating the journey of your crowdfunding campaign to your community? And I have a system in the book where I talk about how to let your story unfold. You don't want to give it all away at the beginning. You want to really let it unfold for people so that they're on the journey with you. They might not reach into their pocket the first week of your campaign. They maybe are a little skeptical. Maybe they're busy. Maybe they missed it. And so you've got to keep communicating consistently for the 30 days, and you've got to unfold a story, and you've got to go a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper as you get to the finish line, or else, why are we all crying at the end of the movie and not at the beginning? It's because there's a whole story. So you want to think about your crowdfunding campaign as, not like a movie, that's a bit dramatic, but as something that has a beginning, a middle, an end, and is a journey for your people. and figure out how to get it to unfold. And I talk about that in the book, literally day by day, step by step, what to do, how often to tweet or Facebook, or how often should you blog, how often should you be sharing your newsletter, what should you do if the money isn't coming in fast enough? Because there's a lot of science and statistics about how much you need to get during even the first 1/3 of your campaign to make sure that you're going to be a success. And so I hope that you'll come and read it so you can do the journey the right way and not be in the 60% who fail.
Got it. As you said earlier, it's all about the story in that sense.
Absolutely.
First off, if you're listening to this, you must get on Ariel's newsletter list. I've been following Ariel for over 7 years now, and you don't have to be a female entrepreneur or a musician to get some fabulous marketing tips and guidance from Ariel. So jump onto her newsletter list right away. And just going back to your own journey here and some of the advice that you were kindly giving us there, what about for somebody just getting started? They may not have any followers yet, and they're listening to this and they're thinking, I need to build what Seth Godin calls a tribe. What's the best thing that they could be doing right now? Is it still the good old email newsletter list?
Believe it or not, yes. I mean, I can't believe it. Someone said to me at dinner last night, like, what do you mean? That's so antiquated. We should all be on Snapchat. And I thought, what? There's always going to be a new bright, shiny object in the social media world that is supposed to be the thing that we're all supposed to be doing, but always back to that newsletter list. And the other thing I want to say about that is, and this is really the key. It's not just about the newsletter list. It's about the content in the newsletter. What is going to get people to open it? What is going to inspire your crowd to really respond? That's what's key. So begin to figure that out. Begin to figure out what your angle is. Are you funny? Are you creative? Do you share, hilarious cat videos? Do you curate brilliant reading lists? Everybody can do this. It's not just about having to have a treasure trove of hundreds and hundreds of articles and blog posts like me. There's 100 ways to have creative, compelling newsletters.
That's awesome. The last time we caught up, we talked about what it takes to succeed in creative media and marketing. How do you see the landscape changing today? How does crowdfunding hold hands with marketing in that sense? Is crowdfunding becoming a more normal way of launching marketing campaigns? Is this the future, do you believe?
I think it is. The more we look at where people are getting money, unless you've got some hugely scalable idea, the truth is you're probably not going to get VC money and VC angel investors banging down your door. And unless you've got something that a bank can understand, you're creating a widget or something that's a bit more tangible with a business plan, with a projection, with an already proven track record, I'm pretty sure your local bank is not going to give you a loan. So where are you going to get the money? That's an important question. So I do think it is the future. I think it's a fabulous way to prove a concept. And we haven't really talked about the failure side of the house. But if you really do give it your all in a crowdfunding campaign, you've got an idea and you don't succeed, there's a lot to be learned there as well. It's not just about getting over the finish line at 100% or 120%, or these people that really blow the lids off their campaign. What's the learning for you if you're trying to get 10,000 and you only get 5? I think there's lessons on either side, a total win or even a partial fund.
I guess I haven't asked this question. I recognize that in the crowdfunding space that some of the more successful campaigns aren't necessarily the first campaign for those individuals or those small communities. Was this your first crowdfunding campaign?
It was. And I was halfway into it. I was even 3/4 of the way into it, and I wasn't even anywhere near my campaign goal, which was so stressful. And I really, really worked hard and really pushed to get it over the finish line. And it was really my vision to not have people do what I did because it was really tough. So, but for those that do launch a campaign, it doesn't succeed, that actually happened to the coolest cooler. If you go and Google that, he launched it, it didn't work. He retooled the campaign, redid the vision for it, relaunched it at a different time of year, and he had a smash success. So you will see that there is a learning curve for this. it just can be very, very disheartening if you don't have a thick skin and a plan B.
Yeah, got it. That's really interesting, actually, because for our listener who may still be unfamiliar with crowdfunding in general, as I understand it, one of the ways that it works is you can offer different types of products, I suppose, at different price points or different experiences, for example. You mentioned there about changing the vision. If it doesn't work first time, you can tweak the vision and tweak the aims of your campaign. Did you find that for you, when you were really pushing towards the end there, was it a case of adding more value to what you were offering as well? Or what was the turning point for you?
The turning point was really understanding that so many people were not seeing the campaign, and I needed to get on the phone and I needed to call people and text people and really advocate for myself. And I talk about my cousin Jill. It's one of my favorite stories in my campaign. This is my cousin, someone who's always been a champion, me for her and her for me. And she wasn't donating. And I really thought, she would. And so I called her one evening and I was like in tears. I was so stressed out, and it had been several days since any money had gone into my campaign. And after that horrible conversation with my mother where she told me I should have just taken my wedding fund, and I was really beginning to think, maybe I'm not capable of raising this money. She picked up the phone and the first words out of her mouth was, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I've been so busy. It's literally at the top of my email. I need to donate to your campaign." And while we were on the phone, she logged in and she gave me a couple $100. And that was my turning point. I realized, okay, I'm not offending everyone. I'm not inconveniencing everyone. People are here to help me. Everybody's so busy. We're so overwhelmed. How many emails a day do you get? It's not anyone's fault that they didn't see it. And it's so easy to get personal that, oh, you didn't want to support me. That's normally not the case at all. Most people are good for at least $5 or $10 or $20, whatever it is. But you have to be bold enough to break through and just ask.
I guess that highlights the importance of having that personal board of directors that you mentioned earlier, because I guess it can be quite a solitary experience in that sense. And there's this danger of what Amanda Palmer would call the fraud police, of coming into your mind and coming up with all sorts of ideas, which could be emotionally quite stressful, I imagine.
Exactly. And, please don't attempt to do a crowdfunding campaign on your own. Really don't. I mean, I had so many people that helped me just tweak the copy and help with the filming of the video and, really look at it and tell me, did it look good? Did it look bad? Did we need to do more graphics, less graphics, more copy, less copy? I mean, there's all these things that go into it. You don't want to just look at it all on your own, because none of us know if our baby is ugly.
So this really highlights the need for support. So if you're going to embark on something like this, you need all the help that you can get, really.
Totally.
And that's just the beginning. Fabulous. So this undoubtedly was a life-changing experience for you. Was the Ariel like this side of the crowdfunding campaign? What's really changed for you from a life perspective?
It really did enable me to make a profound shift in my business. I mean, I don't know how many of you ever had $50,000 extra dollars in the bank, but I certainly, as someone who's in service to independent musicians, and, most people, when they pay me a huge amount of money to do their PR, their social media, and I honor that deeply. But that means that I never had a lot left over to do anything other than keep the business going. And many of us experience that. And that's another myth that I think the media and everyone tells us, like, unless you're a billionaire from what you do, you're not successful. That's not true. I respect any artist that can sustain, even break even partially from putting art into the world. And, the reality for artists and musicians in 2016, 2017 is that it's much more of a hobby where you're expected to give your music away for pennies on Spotify, for example. And that's not a bad thing if you understand how to use it to your benefit. But it was profoundly life-changing because all of a sudden I could hire an amazing editor who could do the job that I couldn't do. And if you read this book, and if you read my last books, this is the best book I've ever written. Not because I'm that much better of a writer, but really because I had a fabulous editor who really dove in with me and helped me get to the essence of what it was I was trying to say. And the design, I mean, I get chills when I look at the cover of this book. It's better than anything I could have come up with using 99designs.com, which, would have been the thing I would have done in the past. And not to belittle any of the DIY bootstrap stuff. There just was a profound difference between doing it all myself and having some extra support, which was amazing.
Yeah, it really is the next level, this book. It's a fabulous looking book. And, you speak to any best-selling author, and I occasionally have the privilege of doing that on this interview series. They'll always tell you that the key to their success is a great editor as well. So what a pleasure it is to have that opportunity to work with great people to augment what it is that you do. Well, it's a huge step forward for folks like me beginning to learn more about crowdfunding. And there's so much in your new book. It really does seem like the definitive guide right now. Before we wrap up, once again, our listener can find your book on Amazon and also on arielhyatt.com. Is that right?
That is right.
Perfect. What was the most inspirational moment for you when writing Crowdstart?
Oh, there were a few. I would say this was not an easy book to get out. I mean, if you can see, the campaign I ran was 2 years ago, and this book sat in a little bit of a draft phase. The most inspirational part for me was I found a great team to help me bring it forward, which is a bit ironic considering I run a digital marketing agency and I should have been able to, market and promote myself. But I think that this is a huge lesson too. If you're a collaborative person, and I very much am, for me, it wasn't about wanting to do this thing all on my own. I really wanted a team. And like I said, I had a great editor, a great designer, and I found a fabulous partner in a woman named Jamie Johnson, who runs a wonderful marketing agency called the Worthy Marketing Group. And she and her team were my champions. And really, that was the best part of writing this book. She read it with fresh eyes, even after the galleys had been printed. And she was so amazing in that we really got in there and put the finishing touches on this book in ways that I had not expected. So for me, it was about the collaboration, about getting a team around me to really help me get it into the world, which is what I aspire to do for all my musician clients, is really be their thinking partners and the champion that helps them with all the things that they didn't see.
Yeah, I love that. What did you learn about human nature through this process?
I think that we all really just want to help each other in our own ways. I mean, I love when you go on Facebook and someone says, Hive, I need a childcare solution in Brooklyn, or Hive, I'm going to Barcelona and I need to know the best tapas bar, or help, I really am feeling down today. Can someone just post something that would make me laugh or smile? I can't stand all of this negative energy I'm feeling from the elections. And it's so cool when in your own little way you can make a tiny difference for someone. That's what crowdfunding is. And anytime, I encourage any of you, if you get that email that makes you roll your eyes going, oh no, another person's looking to get money from me, just go onto their crowdfunding page, give the $5 or $10 or $50 donation. It makes such a huge, huge difference, not only for you, your karma, your dharma, but for them.
I love that. It just reminds me that we all really do need each other. Ariel, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you today about this fabulous new book, Crowdstart. If it's not too early to say, what's next for you?
Oh, wow. I don't know. I mean, I'm so focused on, getting this book out into the world, which is going to be exciting. And my agency, I think every time I put out a book, there's a little magic there. I never know who it's going to touch and what doors it's going to open. So I'm sort of sitting in getting this little book out into the world and seeing what it does. And that's what's next for me.
That's fabulous. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Ariel.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening. Nothing beats the stories and advice of an expert to help you raise your creative game. I would love to know what you thought about today's episode, so don't forget to subscribe in iTunes, where you can rate and review the show. If you like this episode, I invite you to share it on Facebook or Twitter with the one person you know who will benefit from the wisdom shared here today. You can find the show notes on inspirationalcreatives.com/podcast. If you have a burning question or a great idea for a guest, head on over to inspirationalcreatives.com/contact, where you can connect with me there.